Okay, in this video we will be continuing on the beginner's guide to SDL2 in the Go language. If you're just starting out with this video, you'll want to go to github.com, Programming Rainbow, Beginner's Guide to SDL2 in Go. You will want to clone that repository, move inside the directory, and since this is the third video, you will want to take the code that you can find in the video 2 directory, the main.go, and you'll want to copy that to the top level where this main.go is right. Okay, that's where we ended off in the last video, the second video. So this video is the third video. Let me just show you where we are at in this video. So in this one, we have a window that opens and a window that closes if we tell it to close or if we press escape. And it has a title, it's called close window, and it's got a black render. So in this video, we will be loading an image, a PNG type image, and we will be displaying it as our background image. Okay. So SDL2 has the ability to load bitmap images. Bitmap images aren't very fun to work with. It's a very old style image and it doesn't have compression and it's not more modern like JPEGs, PNGs, things like that. So since we want a nice looking image but not as big as a bitmap, we're going to use a PNG image. And all the images that we load for this project will be PNG images. SDL has the core SDL library, but then it has SDL underscore image, SDL image. That is an add-on, a helper library to it. And then there's SDL TTF, true type font, and then there's SDL mixer. So the SDL image add-on library gives you the ability to load images that are not bitmaps, but that are PNG images. So this is a module we need to bring this online, like we did with the SDL. So for Go, it's a package, but it's a C thing, it's a module, whatever you want to call it. So it in the very top level of the documentation, you'll see we have been working in this SDL one, that's the main one. But we're going to be working a little bit with this image one over here. So if we open up image, it's right here. This is kind of the image one. And the first thing that we need to do is the init. We need to initialize image. It has flags here. And if we go down, see to where the flags are, we can initialize it to work with different image types. There's the JPEG, PNG, TIFF, WebP. We're going to be using PNG. I'll do a little bit of an explanation on this. So these can be ORed together with a bitwise OR operation. Right down here, bitwise OR. So if we wanted to say, I want JPEG and PNG, I could put init JPEG and then put a pipe, a single pipe, and then do init PNG after that. And it would do a bitwise OR operation and put the two together. And that would actually, if you did that here with this one being a 1 and a 2, I can't show it correctly here, but it would be a 3 for these. But it doesn't have to be. If this was, say, a 2 and a 3, and I did a bitwise OR with them, the answer would not be 5, it would be 3. Because this isn't showing the bits. Let me show you real quick. So it's not so important in Go because we're not going to check it the way we have to check it in C, but I'm just going to show you here. So if we have some bits, say we have 1, 0, 0, and we have 0, 1, 0, 0, and we did an OR operation, a bitwise OR, it would be 1 or 0 is 1. And then it would be 0 or 1 is 1. And 0 or 0 is 0. And 0 or 0 is 0. So with this bitwise ORs, it would be 1 or 0 is 1. 0 or 1 is 1. 0 or 0 is 0. And 1 or 1 is 1. So it's not 1 plus 1 is 2. It's 1 or 1 is 1. So if we have flags that share bits that are in common, they'll still be turned on, but they're not additive. If we have other flags where one bit is turned on in one flag and another bit is turned on a different flag, it'll be turned on for both of them. And so this is important if you're adding these kind of flags together. This is a kind of a C way of doing things. I was kind of encoding what you want to have. and we would check the output of that. We don't need to check the output of this. I just want to kind of briefly explain. This is just a bitwise OR operation, and that's what it's saying to do with these flags here. It's saying you can add them together, or not add them, you can OR them together. It's not really as important to us, but like say, we're going to show it here in a second, and you can basically stack up different ones to turn on together. Okay, so it's a little bit here. They're using a hexadecimal number, so it's hard to represent what's happening with the hexadecimal, but it's a bitwise OR, and it says it down here. So anyway, we're just using PNG, but if you wanted to use two different types, you could just use a single pipe, which is the bitwise OR operation, and you could add multiple. So we are sending a flag in, and we're looking for an error out of it. And then to shut it down, we are just calling the quit. And there's no return, nothing from that. So let's do those two real quick. To work with the package or image, we need to add that. So it's just like this one, except instead of SDL, it's the image one. So I'm just going to add it here. It's saying we're not using it yet. It's not really a big deal. This needs to be IMG. That is representing the image module. Okay, so down in our SDL initialize SDL, we're going to put one down here just like that. And we're going to set the flag variable too for it. So var image flags. And I think this might just be normal. I think we can just do this on this one. SDL PNG, init PNG. That should work. We don't need this. So it's just this one up here, I think, that was a bit funny, and it couldn't automatically figure out what was going on. So down here, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to say if error, and we're going to say img init, and we're going to pass in our flags. And then we'll check the error. Not equal to nil. Okay. So let me finish this and we'll check it. I'm just going to yank this error message and put it down here. And then we'll change it to, and this is the actual C name of it. It's SDL image. Did I use image on the prefix? I didn't. I did not. I used SDL. Okay. Yeah, it's IMG. Okay. So that is going to bring the image online. And see, what we would do is we'd put these flags in, we'd capture the flags out, we would mask it with a bitwise AND operation, and then we would compare it to the original flags. Again, it would be very complicated. But in Go, we are just going to check the error. They've already done that for us, and they've put it in an error message. It was a longer explanation of the bitwise operations before in C and C++. In Go, we're just going to use the error coming out of that. But since we've brought this online, we're going to shut it down in a reverse order. So it's going to be the first thing shut down. It's going to be img.quit. We've already looked at that function. And that should bring it online and bring it offline. So I'm just going to run this real quick, make sure there's no issues. Okay, looks fine so far. Okay, so now that we have the image online and we can load PNG images, let's move on to why we've brought this online. So we want to, I'm going to close these two. Okay, so we want to load an image. Now there's two different things in SDL. There's surfaces and textures. The surface is an image that you can load into normal memory, and it's not really designed to be fast with your GPU, which is kind of a software rendering thing. And then what deals with the renderer is textures. Textures are held in video RAM, I believe, and they're set up to work with the renderer, and they are hardware accelerated. So we're going to be working with textures. Sometimes we have to go from to create a surface first, like in the TrueType font, and then we convert it to a texture. But anything we're rendering, we're going to end up as a texture. And for PNGs, we can load it to, we could use just the load instead of load texture. And we could load it straight to a surface and then convert the surface to a texture, or we can load it directly to a texture. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to use the load texture function, and we need to pass in our render pointer, and then we need to pass in the string to the location of the image we're loading in. And it's going to return us a pointer to a texture, and it's going to return us an error. So we're kind of seeing the same pattern a lot. We're getting the pointer back that we want, and we have to manage this pointer, and we get the error. Okay, so this is of type SDL texture, so we do need to put that into our game struct as well. So up here in the game struct, we'll be adding a new, and we'll call this background image. And it's of type SDL texture. It's not image texture now, it's SDL texture. So I know we are using the image module to load it, but that's because we're loading a PNG image. We could load a bitmap image with SDL. So the texture is part of SDL thing. It's just the way that that we're loading this type of image is with the image module. So the actual texture is just normal thing of SDL. Just how we're getting that texture loaded is from image. Okay, so that's going to be where we're holding that. And we're going to create a new thing now. So this is meant to load anything that's part of the game that's initializing the game. But actually, I'm going to make another method that's going to be dealing with all the loading of media. Anything that's like images, fonts, sounds, music, things like that. Those are just general loading of media. So I guess right here is where I put it. So this is another method for game. And this is just where we're going to be loading all of our, like images, music, things like that. And we are returning an error from this. So I'm going to create that var. I'm going to create my error variable. And return it. Okay, so now what we want to do is do the thing that we've been doing over and over again with the if statement, and we know we're returning back a pointer and an error from this. So it's going to be if g dot background image and error. And so we have this, it's going to be img load texture, and it's looking for the render, which is going to be game g render. And it's looking for the relative path to where this file is that we're going to load. So that file is right over here in the images folder. And the image we're loading is background.png. So in this images folder, the relative path. So we'll put images. When I say relative path, I don't mean it's not starting out with, like it's in home and username and, it's just where it is relative to main.go, and it's in this folder. That's where it's relative. Okay, so it's called images background.png. Now we do our check on the error. Make sure it's not nil. And we're going to do the same thing in here. We're just going to modify the message. And so this one will be error loading texture. Okay, and so we've loaded a texture, so we also need to destroy the texture. So down here where we're destroying things, I'm going to put it, since it's going to be the next in line of what's loaded, it's now the first thing leaving. it's G, background image, and this is also going to be destroy. If we look at this, what the texture type is here, here's our texture, and there is a method on this texture that's destroy, and it's SDL destroy texture would be the C version of that. And it is returning an error. I'm not going to check that error. Okay, but I am going to set this to nil. Okay, so that will be, this will be loading an image, this will be unloading the image. And now since we have this new method, we also need to make sure that it is called down here. So I'm going to basically copy this. And this one's called load media. Okay, so load media, and everything else is the exact same. Okay, and we don't have, we're still using the close to shut down. So this defer close is already there. It's already on the stack of stuff to happen on the way out. So nothing else needs to change. We just need to run load media method and make sure that it didn't error. Okay, so I'm gonna run this again. We're not gonna see anything yet because I haven't displayed the image, but I'm just gonna run it just to make sure so we should be loading the image and unloading the image. So if assuming it is loaded, it didn't error or anything. How do we display this? Well, on the renderer, in the normal SDL package, on the renderer, there is a method called render copy. So we've already done render clear and render present. There's a render copy that actually takes a texture. It takes a source and a destination rectangle, and it also returns an error. Now, since this is happening in the game loop, I'm not going to check the error on it. It's not important. It's important if the image didn't get loaded. It's not important if it doesn't show for one frame. And that probably won't happen, but if, I'm not checking the error inside the game loop. So we're going to use this, and this is a method on render. So in the game loop, right here, between the clear and the present, this is where all our drawing happens. So it's going to be g.renderer, and there's a method called copy. And then it's going to take in the pointer, the g background image. And then we need a source and a destination of rectangle. So the source rectangle is, imagine we have an image. Imagine this is our image, the whole screen that you're seeing here, right? But I only wanted to display this bit of the image right here, not the bit with the folders and the files and, directories. I don't want that bit shown. I just want this bit. So I could say, hey, my source image, I don't want the whole image. I want this rectangle right here, from here to here to here to here, right? I want this rectangle. That would be that. But I actually want the entire rectangle of the source image. The whole image that was loaded in, I want to see the entire thing. So since I want to see the entire thing, I don't even need to specify a rectangle. I can just put nil here, and it's going to use the entire thing. And you know what? My background image is actually the same size as the game window. It's an 800 by 600. So I actually just want this to be displayed, stretched to fill the entire screen. So I can actually put the destination rectangle, how I want it to be displayed, as nil as well. And that will just be for the background image. So that's going to give me nil and nil. Let's see, I think I'm missing something. What am I missing? Texture. No. Normally I would be passing in the renderer here, but this is because it's Go, it's a method on render. So I only have 3 things and the error that I'm ignoring. So yeah, so let's just see if that works. Oh, there's our image. So this is SDL, and the background is black. And the reason why the background is black is because this image is a PNG image with an alpha channel that is transparent. So we're seeing the black render behind it. That means if we change the color of the render, we change what's behind this SDL image right here. And we will be doing that in the next video. But in this one, we are just seeing the black because it is a transparent image. Let me just show you, though, the fact that we used a nil for the source and a nil for the destination. Let me show you what happens if I change the size of the screen. Since we're stretching this, if I change the size of the screen, the background image will actually stretch to change to meet that size of the screen. So let's just show that real quick. I'm just going to go up here and change the constant. I'm going to change the width to, let's say 1200. I'm going to set the height to like 200. So it's going to look really wonky. It's going to be really wide and not very tall. And the image is going to actually be stretched to that. So the original image is 800 wide by 600 tall. Now the image is going to be squashed down and stretched. That's because I use both the source and the destination as nil. So the source is fine. That's not what's causing the stretching. The destination, I'm telling it that I'm not giving it a rectangle. I just want it to stretch to the entire screen, and then I'm making the screen this funny size. Okay, so you see that how it's stretched? That's because of the destination rectangle. The second rectangle, I didn't populate it, and that's why it's doing that. But that's fine. Just showing you what it looks like. We will be using rectangles later, though. Just not in this, because the background is already the same size as the window. We don't need it. Okay, perfect. Let's change this to background right here. Oops. So what we've done here is we've added a new package right here, a third-party package. And we didn't need to do the mod tidy because these are actually part of the same module. So this module's already been added, and these are just two packages inside the module. But anyway, we have this image package that we've added, and we have initialized it here, brought it online, and we got our flags. Now, if you wanted JPEG as well, you could just go pipe, and you could say image.init JPEG, and that should work right there. So you don't have to change anything here. You can just put it here. So that's kind of why we have pulled out these variables, or pulled out the flags into variables. So you can just keep adding other things. We'll do it with the sound as well. So we have initialized SDL, and we're checking for errors, and then we're closing down, initialize image, and then we're closing image down. We do have a new pointer here for a texture in our game struct. And then we have a new method for loading media. And this is loading the media, and it's returning a pointer and an error. We're checking the error to make sure that it didn't, it went all right. And then if it didn't, we are creating a loading texture, message. And then since we have loaded this, and this is a heap allocated memory for C, this is how we unload it. We're destroying the texture and making sure that pointer is set to nil. And we are calling that method here, just like the way that we called the one above these other two. Exact same, but there's nothing new happening in the close is already set up for us. So there's nothing new happening there. And in our game loop, between clear and present is where we draw everything. And it's render copy. And then it's the image we're using, and the source rectangle and the destination rectangle. And we will see more of these in the next videos. Okay, so that is everything. I hope that was entertaining. Hope it was educational. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.